Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Ra. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jannavalabha Girivanadari Gopi Janna. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanadari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Ra. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Ra. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vānaprastha. Jamuna Tira Vānaprastha. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vānaprastha Tira. Jamuna Tira Vānaprastha Tira. Jamuna Tira Vānaprastha. Jam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhupada Asatosada Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila HG Bhakti Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananda Gaura Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Prem Sika Host Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasili Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopya Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Go Premanandi. How glorious some of the devotees, how glorious some of the devotees, how glorious some of the devotees, how glorious, Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text number 18. Ya Sat Sapatnan Vijigīsamano Griheshu Nirvisya Yateta Purvam Atyeti Durghashrita Urjitarin Shineshu Kamang Vicharet Vipaschit Sapatnan Vijigīsamano Griheshu Nirvisya Yateta Purvam Atyeti Durga Shrita Urjitarin Shineshu Kamang Vicharet Vipaschit Yasat Sapatnang Vijigīsamano Griheshu Nirvisya Yateta Purvam Atyeti Durga Shrita Urjitarin Shineshu Kamang Vicharet Vipaschit Yasat Sapatnang Vijigīsamano Griheshu Nirvisya Yateta Purvam Atyeti Durga Shrita Urjitarin Shineshu Kamang Vicharet Vipaschit Sapatnam Ya, anyone who. Sat, 6. sapatnan, adversaries, vijigishamana, desiring to conquer, griheshu, in household life, nirvisya, having entered, yateta, must try, purvam, first, acheti, conquers, gṛhastha-āśrama, being in a fortified place, urjitam-arin, very strong enemies, shineshu, decreased, kamam, lusty desires, vicharet, can go, vipaschit, the most experienced learned. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki. One who is situated in household life and who systematically conquers his mind and 5 sense organs is like a king in his fortress who conquers his powerful enemies. After one has been trained in household life and his lusty desires have decreased, he can move anywhere without danger. Purport. The Vedic system of 4 varnas and 4 ashramas is very scientific, and its entire purpose is to enable one to control the senses. Before entering household life, gṛhastha-āśrama, a student is fully trained to become jitendriya, a conqueror of the senses. Such a mature student is allowed to become a householder, and because he was first trained in conquering his senses, he retires from household life and becomes vānaprastha as soon as the strong waves of youthful life are past and he reaches the verge of old age at 50 years or slightly more. Then, after being further trained, he accepts sannyas. He is then a fully learned and renounced person who can move anywhere and everywhere without fear of being captivated by material desires. The senses are considered very powerful enemies. As a king in a strong fortress can conquer powerful enemies, so a householder in gṛhastha-āśrama, household life, can conquer the lusty desires of youth and be very secure when he takes a vānaprastha and sannyas. Om jnanatamannandasya jnananjana salakaya chakshum militam jena tasmai Sri Gurave namaha mukham krota vācalam pangunang hayate gurim yatkripataraham vande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Vanchikalpatribhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In the purport here, Prabhupada says that the varna and ashram is very scientific. So one definition of this of science is a systematically organized body of knowledge, or on a particular subject. So this varnashram system, it's very well organized. It's like you get the varnas; these are the different occupational duties of the living entities. There's the brahmanas, the kshatriyas, and there's vaishyas, and there's sudras. So in the Vaishnava society, the brahmanas, they're the leaders, they're the intelligentsia. They're connected with Krishna, so they guide the administrative, the kshatriyas. They give guidance on how to lead society. Just like now there's a perverted reflection, you could say, like in our government, there's the Congress. They give advice to the president, I guess. But the Brahmanas were connected to Krishna, so they would give divine instructions or guidance to the Kshatriyas so they could lead society properly. There was called Daivi Varnashram. Now you wouldn't call it Daivi Varnashram, although it's there everywhere. Just like here in America, there's the intelligentsia, there's the scholars, and there's the scientists, very intelligent, but they're not Daivi, they're not transcendental. Yeah. And therefore they're not, the leaders in society are not getting any proper guidance. And therefore, all over the world, it's chaos, because there's no guidance. And the Kshatriyas, they're very powerful, but they're also very intelligent. You know. And then the Vaishyas are the businessmen, and then the Sudras, they're the workers. So, Prabhupada called this Daivi Varnashram because the leadership was there in the Brahmanas, because the Brahmanas were not just Brahmanas, they were Vaishnavas. And Priyavrata here, he wasn't just a Kshatriya, he was a sadhu. Rajarsi, he was a saintly king. Of course, he's not yet. He's going to become actually it's amazing, he's going to be the ruler of the universe. So but he's a Vaishnava, so he's Rajarsi, very powerful, very pure. So, but yeah, now it's chaos. And Prabhupada gives the example that of the body, like the Brahmana, he's the head, and the Kshatriya, he's the arms, and the Vaishya, he's the bellies, or sometimes they say the thigh, and then the Sudras, they're the legs. So now, throughout society, there's no Brahmanas. Even in India, it's actually said in the Shastra that in Kali Yuga, demons take birth in Brahmana families. And we see, if a Vaishnava tries to go into some of these temples in India, can't go in. A Vaishnava, someone who's strictly practicing Krishna consciousness, serving Krishna, can't enter some temples because they're born in Sudra families. So these are so-called Brahmanas. You can't see that anybody can become a devotee, a Brahmana, if one is qualified. So they're thinking it's by birth. And therefore many of the Brahmanas, they would challenge Prabhupada, they would argue with Prabhupada. How could you be giving sannyas and Brahmanas to Sudras? You're going to ruin the Hindu society. Prabhupada would have big arguments with these guys. They can't understand. It's not by birth, it's by quality. Just like a person born into a family where the father is a doctor and the mother is a doctor. It's not automatic that the child is a doctor. He's got to be qualified. He's got to go to medical school. He's got to go through the whole. Even though he's in the family of doctors, maybe his grandfather's a doctor, grandmother's a doctor, but no, still he's got to go through he's got to study. He's got to go to medical school. So it's not automatic that one is a Brahmana. Yeah. But if someone is qualified to be a Brahmana, then yeah, they can be a Brahmana, they can be a sannyasi. So unfortunately, in the age of Kali, there's no head. And there's no Kshatriyas either, real Kshatriyas. The real Kshatriyas are powerful and very intelligent. They know where to get guidance. They won't take guidance from a fool. They wouldn't take guidance from our so-called leaders now. And the Vaishyas, practically speaking, there's no Vaishyas. Because a real Vaishya, he protects cows. And he engages in agricultural activities and arranges festivals and things like this. So this is a real Vaishya. So you get an idea of the situation now. There's no head. There's no arms. Yeah. There's no waist even. There's just humongous lakes. This is Kali Yuga, just humongous lakes. So therefore Prabhupada came and he wanted to make brahmanas. He came to make brahmanas. Because this is what is lacking. There's no head. And he did well. Many devotees are wonderful brahmanas, but born into Sudra families. Yeah. So this is the glory of Srila Prabhupada, that he was able to turn such low-class people into brahmanas. And Priyavata Maharaj, he's going to show how he's going to accept Lord Brahma's instructions, and he's going to show how to be a Rajarsi, a leader in society. And even though he's going to be in this position where he's leading society, imagine managing the universe. I mean, jeez. Whew. What a challenge. But because he's Krishna conscious, there won't be a difficulty. So if we're Krishna conscious, then we could, practically you could do so many things you can do. As a devotee of Krishna, like Prabhupada did so much. Inconceivable what Prabhupada did. Why? Because he was a devotee of Krishna. And he was controlled. Because he was a devotee of Krishna, he was able to control the senses. Here in this purport, a devotee is jitendriya. He is the conqueror of the senses. So the senses, as you know, the senses can sometimes get out of control. Very difficult to control the senses. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and uncontrollable. But it said if one is able to control the tongue, then it's easier to control the other senses. But if the tongue is out of control, then it's very difficult to control the other senses. Of course, the most difficult, as it's mentioned here, that's Prabhupada mentions here in the purport, that in the beginning there's the Brahmachari. This is the ashram. So there's varna, and then there's the ashram. So in the beginning there's the Brahmachari. So he's celibate, actually, up until about 25 years old. But the senses start getting out of control about what age? That sex desire comes up. 14, 15, 13, starts like that, around that area. All of a sudden you get hit by this sex desire, like, oh, what? Like getting hit by a truck or something. So, but he controls that. He's in an ashram, and he controls that sex urge. Vacho vegam manasakroda vegam, jiva vegam, vānaprastha vegam. Etan vegam yovasa hetadira sarvami pamam. Pritavingsa sisya. These are urges, vacho, this urge to speak, the mind's demands, anger, the tongue, belly, and genitals. If one is able to control these things, then one can be a spiritual master. So these urges are pushing. So then if he wants, at 25 he can either accept household life, or he can continue on, just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He didn't accept household life. But he said, if I knew that if I had 100 children, they would all be Krishna conscious, I would have 100 children. But you never know. So he remained Brahmachari and then took sannyas. And Prabhupada encouraged also devotees to stay Brahmachari. Stay Brahmachari. If you can stay Brahmachari, better. Yeah. Because less distraction. Household life is a lot of distraction. You got to pay so many bills, you got to raise children, you got so much distraction there. But as a Brahmachari, just chant Hare Krishna, do some seva, do some service. Simple. Nice life, actually. So then, if he wants, he could take household life, and then he, more or less, tries to satisfy his senses. Not that you're going to be satisfied. Avartam jnanam etena jnanino tityarana. The wise living entity's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and burns like fire. It's never satisfied. Burns like fire. And then Krishna goes on to say, just a couple of verses later, Tasma tvang anyanjada nyamya bharatarshava. He says, therefore, from the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Lust is a destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. But these two things are something that we really want. Right? Knowledge of Krishna and self-realization. Right? So this is Krishna saying this is what destroys it, this bodily conception, trying to satisfy this body, destroys the knowledge that we're trying to acquire. So better, if possible, better just chant Hare Krishna, do some seva, control the senses. These desires will come, no doubt, but they'll also go. And therefore Krishna, he also says, apoyamanam achalapashtam samudnamapa bhavasanti yadva tadvat kama yang prapasanti sarve sasanti mapnodinda kama kami. One who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires which enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, which is always steady, alone achieves peace, and not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. So those desires will come, but we just let them go. There should be like an alarm. Danger, danger, danger. Maya has entered. Maya has entered. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. When these desires come, we take shelter of Krishna and pray to become free of these desires. Because these material desires, this is what keeps us bound in the material world. Bound to birth, death, old age, and disease. So now we're getting this divine opportunity to take shelter of Krishna. Go back to Godhead. It's a great opportunity. So we should embrace this opportunity. And anything that gets in the way, it's like there's a statement by Narada Muni that one should cultivate utter humility in one's service to Krishna. And anything that gets in the way of that should be rejected. So real humility means engaging in devotional service. Understanding that I'm just a little soul in a dead body. Prabhupada was speaking about this, how the body is dead. And he said, everybody knows that the body is dead. Prabhupada, what is it? That one person, he thinks everybody thinks the same. What is that called? Atmavamanyate jagat. He thinks that everybody's thinking like him. So Prabhupada's a pure devotee. He's thinking everybody thinking like him. He said like that. Everybody knows the body is dead. Actually, the body is dead. But because the soul is in the body, it appears to be alive. Just like children, sometimes they'll see a puppet show. And sometimes the puppet shows are really good. In the early days, we used to have these puppet shows and dramas in the temples. We don't have dramas anymore. Of course, now we're having the COVID. But before that, even did you have many dramas here? Yeah, we used to have them so many in the early days. Actually, this Vishnu Jana, he was really good at puppet shows. He was famous. Is it? So these children, these little, 1-2-year-old children, they're watching the puppet show. and sometimes they're very good, and the characters are playing their part very well, and the little children, they think that the puppet's actually alive, because they're little children. It actually appears alive. But then after the show, they may see the costume, and they, oh, it's dead. It's not real. So similarly, we think that this body is real. It appears. I mean, Maya is so good. Krishna is so good at making these bodies, they appear real. Like I am this body, and you're your body, because it's so well done. But then when the soul leaves the body, then we see the body for what it really is. It's dead. Only because the soul is in the body does it appear to be alive. So this process is meant to help us come to this reality that we're very, very small souls. And Krishna, he's great. He's great. He's fantastic. He's wonderful. And we're servants of Krishna. And we have to engage our senses in the service of Krishna. Iha yasya hiradasya karmana manasagya nikila sapyasasu jivan mukta sushti. Anybody who engages their mind, body, and words in the service of Krishna is liberated even in this lifetime. So you have to engage your senses in the service of Krishna. Just like the eyes like to see beautiful things. So we see the beautiful deities, so nicely dressed. We have beautiful art in our books. I remember when I first joined, I was so amazed by the artwork. I would go through the Srimad Bhagavatam just looking at all the art. It's incredible. It's beautiful. And quite often people get our books upon seeing the beautiful art in the books. Not only beautiful, but given a nice message, right? They like to see a nice message in art. And that's why Prabhupada he wrote a letter. It's all about the art. Put as much art as you can in the books, because people are attracted. So people like to see beautiful things. You like to hear nice music. So we have nice musicians in our movement. We have nice kirtan, nice bhajans. So much nice music with nice lyrics, just like we have Titikshava Karuna Kababu is our local musician. Such nice lyrics, nice music, nice lyrics, also nice message. Actually, he's probably the most popular musician in ISKCON. Before COVID, they'd send him to Brazil and India and Europe and all these. Actually, he's very good. Does he perform here sometimes? No. I mean, before? No?
Yeah, he did the farm, like every year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's good. Nice music, nice lyrics, spiritual lyrics. So we like to taste. Also, we like to taste. Everybody likes to taste nice things. So we have nice Krishna prasadam. Nice Mahaprasadam, the milk sweets, are very good here. Prasadam is very nice. Yeah. And I like to smell nice fragrances. You have nice flowers here in the summer times. Yeah. These gardenias are like, phew. And frangipani, what do you call them here? Is it frangipani? Huh? Plumeria. Yeah. In Australia, they call them frangipanis. And they're all over the place. Whenever I smell them, it reminds me of Australia. So, yeah, we like to smell nice things. And we like to use our legs, dancing, right? We dance here for the deities. When we dance before the deities, then the heart gets purified. And Prabhupada, he said, if you dance before the deities, then Krishna becomes very pleased. He said, if you dance, you dance, you dance, you get purified, you go back to Godhead. Krishna likes us to dance before him. Therefore, there's one devotee that was famous for dancing. Bhakreshwar Pandit, 3 days, and didn't stop for 3 days. Constant dancing. His legs were in good shape. But then you have people in this material world, they go to the discotheque, right? All over the world there's discotheques, and they're dancing. But the soul is crying because there's no happiness there. It's just this stinking bodily conception of life. And they're trying to get some enjoyment from another body. They go to the discotheques and try to pick up on a girl or a boy, and there's so much frustration. It's just material life means frustration. So much frustration. But if we give our life to Krishna, then we'll be satisfied. This is the satisfaction of the soul, is to engage our senses, to engage our mind in thinking of Krishna and serving Krishna. Nothing else will satisfy. Just like Prabhupada gives the example of the fish. You take a fish out of the ocean and you put it in a nice mansion here in San Diego, with the ocean view, ocean front view. What's he going to do? He's going to flap around, right, and die. So Prabhupada says that the living entities, they're flapping around in this material world, trying to enjoy this material world, but frustrated. We have to go back into the ocean of devotional service. The nectar of devotion. The oceanic nectar of devotion. Prabhupada says, actually Rupa Goswami, he says, this nectar devotion is just a drop. It's just a drop of the ocean of the nectar devotion. And that nectar devotion, I don't know how many of you read it, but it's so sweet. It's so nice. So this is just a drop, just to give you an idea of how nectarian this ocean of devotional service is. This is what we're hankering for. Everybody's looking for pleasure, but they don't know that the real pleasure of the soul is in pure service to Krishna. There's no greater pleasure for the soul than to serve Krishna with love. And they want love too. They don't know what is love. Atmandir priti vanchidali parikam krishnandir priti ichadare premana. That lust means to try to satisfy one's material senses. And love means to satisfy the senses of Krishna. This is love. Just like there's so many songs, people are trying to give some definition of love. But only the devotees, only Krishna knows what is real love. Service. Service to Krishna, service to the devotees. This is love. There was one devotee. This was back in the early days, maybe 68. And Prabhupada was with this devotee at the center there in San Francisco, and they were on a balcony. And the devotee said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, isn't there any love in Krishna consciousness? He said, oh yes, it's all about love, developing our love for Krishna. But not lust. You want a wife? There were so many people going below them. He said, go ahead, choose one. Anyone you want, go ahead, choose a wife. Take it. He was playing with him. But this doesn't bring happiness to the soul. There's no love there. Unless the wife and the husband, they both love Krishna and Krishna is in the center, then there's love in a relationship. But if it's just trying to enjoy their senses, it's frustrated. And therefore all over the world, so much divorce. So much divorce. So much unhappiness. So many girls and boys breaking up. So much frustration. Because there's no happiness there. Happiness is in serving Krishna. So this is the prayer of the devotee is to engage in his service. Kamarinam katina katita palita durni desas tesam jata mahina kuruna trapa no puchanti. Uchujjaitam athidupate sampatam labdi buddhis. Tamayata saranam avayam namuksha. That Rupa Goswami says, for so long I've been the humble, menial servant of bad masters. What is that? The bad masters are lust and greed, anger, envy, illusion. You have a bad master, you're not going to go in a good direction. Right? You're going to suffer. Just like there's slaves that have masters. Even today, believe it or not, there's slaves on this planet right now. They get sold and the whole thing. Mostly in Africa. Still happening. So you're a slave and you got some master that's just abusing you. How horrible. So that's the situation. People are serving their bad masters and therefore they're suffering so much. Yeah. But he goes on to say, but now, my dear Lord, you've given me transcendental intelligence. So no longer do I want to serve these bad masters. Now I just want to serve you. Krishna is the best master. He's known as Kartam Isha. Kartam Isha means the boss. There's many bosses in this planet, probably millions of bosses. But Krishna, he's the supreme boss, the best master. And we want to be his slave, actually. We want to do whatever Krishna wants us to do. So slave in a positive sense. We just want to serve Krishna. And Krishna, he wants to serve his devotees. You know, what master in this world, what boss in this world wants to serve his employees? You'll never see that. Where a boss wants to serve his employees. You'll never see that. But Krishna, he's such a good boss. He's such a good master. He takes great pleasure in serving his devotees. Especially Srimati Radharani. Especially Srimati Radharani. So we should try to be good servants of the best master, Krishna. On that note, any questions? Yes. Bhakti Daniel.
Thank you, Vijay Prabhu. My question would be, how do you control the tongue then, if it's the most hardest to control?
Yeah. Well, we only take Krishna Prasad. Just like there's so many things that we used to eat before we came to Krishna consciousness. So many things. But now, we don't touch them. Because it's not offered to Krishna. Krishna, he kind of played a joke on me. Before I joined, I would be with my friends and someone would offer me, I don't know, something like, a Pepsi or something. And I would say, no, it's against my religion. Just making a joke out of religion, you know. Really? No, I'm joking. Yeah, give me the pizza. Give me the Pepsi. Yeah. I'll make a joke of religion. But now, there's thousands of things that I used to eat that I won't eat now because it's against my religion. I went to a family gathering many years ago, and my brother offered me some fig Newtons. And I said, no, that's okay. He said, now I know something's really wrong. Because you used to love fig Newtons. Something's wrong. Something's not right here. So I explained to him, well, actually now I only eat things that have been offered to God. And that hasn't been offered to God. So I don't eat it. Yeah. No, there's not even a thought. If something isn't offered to Krishna, we won't even think of eating it, isn't it? Yeah. Again, I guess maybe if you've been around for just a few weeks, maybe you wouldn't. But after you've been around for a while, we won't even think of eating anything that's not been offered. Actually, there was some devotees. They had heard that Jayapataka Swami, he could tell if something was prasadam or not. So they made some boga, and they offered it to Jayapataka Swami. And he asked the devotees, "Has this been offered?" He could tell it hadn't been offered. So this is after you've been around for a long time. So yeah, we only eat things that have been offered to Krishna. And we also speak things in relation to Krishna. In the material world, there's a lot of prajalpa. Prajalpa means useless talk. And then there's Krishna Katha. Krishna Katha means that we're speaking things that reminds others of Krishna. Yeah. Krishna Katha. So, just like in the ashram, there should only be Krishna Katha. No prajalpa. There should be some signs around. No prajalpa, only Krishna Katha. Because that helps us remember Krishna. If we hear prajalpa, we forget Krishna. Right? So this is the most important rule of all the rules, all the verses that are throughout the literatures. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Smartavya saratang Vishnu or Vishmartavya jatuchit. So everything that we're doing is meant to help us remember Krishna. That's the goal. Here, Prabhupada says in the purport that the goal is to control the senses, but of course Prabhupada, because he's speaking about this, but actually the ultimate goal is to be Krishna conscious. And when we're Krishna conscious, then it's very easy to remember Krishna. And it's like the senses are compared to a serpent. But if you take the teeth out of the serpent, no harm, right? Can't do any harm. Unless it's one of those snakes that roll around you and squeeze. What are those called? Anaconda. There's different. Actually, I guess there's a few. There's a few big snakes that could curl up around you. And it's a dangerous place, yeah. Actually, Shiva Ram, I'll tell you an amazing story. Shiva Ram tells us, just to give you an example of the material world. This person was in Brazil, and he was walking in a forest, and he hit one of these big snakes, anaconda, I think, the biggest snake, I think, in the world. So this snake curled up around him, and it took him up in a tree. And it's just, they actually, what they do is they eat you. They're so big, they eat humans, believe it or not. So he's up in this tree, and the snake's, getting ready to have dinner. Fortunately, this person had a cell phone. He gets on the cell phone and he tells, come and help, I'm being devoured by this snake. That was there in Krishna book also, that was going to happen. Krishna came and touched him with his foot, right? Turned out to be a demigod. So these people, his relatives came and they're throwing rocks at him and throwing all kinds of things at this snake. And eventually the snake got the idea that this is not working out. So he let him go. Saved by the cell phone. So there are some advantages of having a cell phone. Any other question? Yes, or a comment?
One disagreement with what you said in the class. You said that there's no Brahmins, no Kshatriyas, no real Vaishyas. We're all Shudras, all legs, big legs, right? That was funny. But actually, even the Shudras, we don't qualify. I mean, it doesn't qualify. Canto 7, chapter 11, text 24. I think Narada is speaking to Yudhishthira about, offering, this is the quality of the Shudras. Shudras. offering obeisances to the higher sections of society, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, being always very clean, being free from duplicity, serving one's master, performing sacrifices without uttering mantras, not stealing, always speaking the truth, and giving all protection to the cows and the Brahmins. These are the symptoms of the Shudra.
So in other words, there's no sudras.
We don't got
There's
no
nothing.
Shudras.
Just impersonalism, just
Chandalas, mlechas, outcasts. Maybe we're
nothing. Impersonalism. Outcast, huh? Everybody's just an outcast. But we do have some brahmanas in ISKCON society. So there's something there. We have
Hi,
some nice...
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yes, you have a question or a comment?
I do. I have a question.
Okay.
You had said that Srila Prabhupada had wanted men to stay Brahmachari if they could, and it was also, but at the same time, it was my. I thought that he wanted women to get married in general. So I'm just wondering if you have a comment on if a woman wanted to stay focused in Krishna conscious and not do the whole gṛhastha-āśrama thing. I was wondering if you had a comment about that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. Prabhupada was asked this same thing. And Prabhupada said, this is the only flaw in our philosophy, that all the brahmacharis should stay brahmachari and all the women should get married.
This is why we have the temple presidents, so they have to work that out.
But I mean, here in America, there used to be about 700 brahmacharis. There was a lot of brahmacharis. Now there's maybe 50. So the girls got their boys, and it's very difficult to control the sex urge in Kali Yuga. In any age, it's hard. I mean, even Indra, the king of heaven, he had such a hard time controlling the sex urge. In all ages, in all places, at all times, it's difficult. So ladies don't have to worry. Oh, you're asking if a woman doesn't want to get married. Oh.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, I didn't hear that part. Okay. Well, Prabhupada told, I remember Prabhupada speaking to a lady, and Prabhupada said to her that Krishna is your husband. You don't want to get married? That's okay. Krishna, he's your husband. So Prabhupada gave that. But it's very rare. Very rare. But yeah, that Prabhupada said that to one Mataji. You remember that, Dravida? Yeah. Oh, you remember the Mataji even? Okay. Prabhupada, Dravida knows the details.
I read it in the letter. I think letter. That was Jadharani.
Oh, it's Jadharani. Okay.
Yeah. Who's still unmarried and one of the leaders. She's very advanced. Okay. It's hard to do that in society like America. You find that in India, in Vrindavan, you'll find single ladies and support for that mostly.
Widows, they were married and then
generally,
yeah.
Most of them. But it's more difficult, but it's possible.
Yeah.
It's not like, no, you cannot chant Hare Krishna unless you get married. No, it doesn't work that way. Everybody can chant. And
Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki